We're going to bring in our good friend Deanna Barash. She's the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum Assessment and Instruction for the school district. Always great having you on the show. Thank you for being with us.
No problem. Thanks for having me again. I feel like it's been just a couple weeks and I'm back.
I
So
know, and it's because everything changes so quickly, which has to make your job nearly impossible.
it is never a dull moment, and certainly it requires us always to be monitoring the data and in constant communication, and obviously be willing to switch at the last minute if need be, which is what we had to do this weekend.
How do you come up with that decision? So it's going to go back to all remote learning for right now, and how long is that going to last?
So it starts effective today through Friday, November the 27th. And as long as the data suggests that it's safe to come back, we'll be back for our in-person instruction on Monday, November the 30th.
What goes into making those decisions?
We were notified late Friday, early Saturday that Oakland County, who has developed their own matrix actually, and it's called the Oakland County Guidance for In-Person Instruction. And it is really a letter grade system. Obviously, good enough for us, right? So easy to understand. Letters A through E, which shows the level of exposure, the level of risk, and then gives guidance about what schools should do based upon the level of active cases and infection rate across the county, and what we should consider. Over the weekend, we were notified that Oakland County has moved to level E, which is the highest level of risk that you possibly can have. So you have transmission, you have high infection rate, and so schools, based on upon those factors, as well as what we're seeing in our own schools at this time, need to transition to fully remote learning. And so we made the decision really Saturday morning. We had conversation as a leadership team. We talked with our principals yesterday, and then let our staff and parents know this morning that we were transitioning to remote learning for the next month.
And I know that these decisions are never easy for you and the leadership team to make. However, to wake up today, I'm just imagining if I was a parent and then I wake up today and it's like, oh no, you have to
Mm-hmm.
be remote. I worry about the change in the schedule, the change in worrying about childcare. And I'm sure that those concerns were taken into consideration when you made these decisions. So, how are you explaining this to the parents out there?
So we encourage our parents. We're actually going to do a webinar this evening at 7:30. The link is on our website and all over social media. So we'll go into a little more detail for our parents this evening, help them understand the transition and what the schedule is going to look like for the next month and so forth. So we encourage our parents and community members to tune in at 7:30 tonight. The webinar link is on our website so they can get some more information. We know it's difficult, and I think it's an understatement to say that these decisions are never easy. And I don't think I want anyone to believe that we take them lightly, and that we don't take all those factors you mentioned into consideration. The bottom line is that we have active cases in a number of our buildings. We have a significant number of staff and students already in quarantine, not from exposure at school, but certainly from things occurring outside of the school day. So whether that's events that they participate on their own time, family exposure, parents who have tested positive, grandma and grandpa have tested positive, athletic teams, you name it. We're seeing a number of staff and students who are already in quarantine. And so when you couple that with the significant rise in Oakland County of cases, and knowing that we're not anticipating a decrease anytime soon, we need to make sure it is our duty to keep our students and our staff safe. And so we need to make sure that we do that by limiting the amount of opportunity for transmission from student to student and parents and staff. And so that means going remote learning only. It is not an easy decision. We know parents are frustrated. We understand. We really do understand. It is heartbreaking for all of us to be back in this situation again, but we also need to know that we have to keep the health and safety of our students and staff first and foremost. And when you're seeing the number of cases that we're seeing students who are testing positive from lower elementary age students and middle schoolers. We already have our high school fully remote. We have staff members who have tested positive. We have to make sure that we don't continue the spread, And the sooner we can contain that and we do what we need to do, the better our chances are to return to normal in-person instruction. And so sometimes we have to take those drastic measures in order to get back to some sense of normalcy.
So, Deanna, what's this look like for the teachers? Are they remote as well, or are they actually teaching from their classrooms in the building?
They're going fully remote as well. So today they're planning. They're getting material pickup ready, materials for students that they can pick up on Wednesday, contactless pickup. So families will be hearing about that very, very shortly. But the buildings will be open for our staff to kind of finish up through the end of the day Wednesday, and then everyone will be working remotely until November the 27th. We want people at home. We want teachers teaching safely from home. We want to do everything we can to mitigate the spread. So that includes West Bloomfield High School teachers who have been in person in the classroom teaching since the start of school. They will be moving to fully remote teaching from home as well.
Deanna Barash with us. She's the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Assessment and Instruction at the West Bloomfield School District with us on the Oakland County MegaCast. And Deanna, with school now being all virtual until at least November 30th, by then you're into the later portion of the semesters. We're approaching the holidays. How does what's going on now and the status of it being entirely virtual through the end of the semester, albeit not knowing what the future holds with COVID-19 and the response to it and the number of cases or the positivity rate months out, how does this current situation inform the district's plans for next semester and going forward with this school year?
Well, last week we held a parent webinar and actually had sent a parent survey to be completed about what our next step should be. So what has gone well this fall? What should we consider as we think about our next steps and our return to learn? And at that point in time, we were thinking about what does it look like if we were to start to bring cohorts of students back in together? How can we safely bring West Bloomfield High School students back into the building? And so certainly this move to remote learning only will impact those decisions. And so we will continue to engage our community as we have from the very beginning. We'll continue to plan on what that's going to look like when we can safely bring students back into school. And certainly we'll continue to communicate that to everyone as well. We are in such a tough situation. And I know everyone says it all the time, and I know it sounds very cliche. It really and truly is a no-win. No matter what we do, it is difficult. We want kids back in school. We do, and we want high school students there. We want elementary students there. We know that our teachers are struggling because they too need each other and need to be able to see their students every day. But we have to think about what's best in the safety for our students and staff. And so we don't have a crystal ball. None of us do to predict what may happen in the next month. And certainly, as we move into the holiday season, where there are more opportunity for students and parents to interact and people are out in the community, we know there's COVID fatigue. We know that's a real thing. You see, not so much at school, but certainly out in the community, you see less mask use, you see less social distancing, you see all those things that impact the transmission of COVID. And so we have to, while we can't control what people do outside of the school day and outside of our buildings, we need to be able to control what we can within our schools. And at this point in time, the safest thing we can do in order to contain that and the hopes that we can get back to normal school is to make sure that we are learning remotely and that we mitigate it as much as possible. I don't know, Tyler, what's going to happen in the next month or so. We will not wait. If there needs to be a change, if there should need to be, for some reason, an extension of remote learning, we won't wait until the Friday before to make that decision. We'll be monitoring the data. Parents, we have a COVID link on our website now, so parents are able to see our data, so the number of positive cases that we have in the district that is updated every single day. We've been sending emails to our families every day, district-wide, regardless of the building that your children attend, letting our families know where we have cases and what the protocol has been, and we've been in constant communication with the health department. that we continue to update the website as well with the county data. So parents can get on, they can look at our zip codes, they can see the infection rate, they can see the transmission rate. And we also have a link to the matrix that I referenced, which is the Oakland County kind of guidance for in-person learning. And they can see that we are at level E, and what that means, which is that we needed to move to remote learning. We'll continue to monitor all that data. We'll be in contact with the health department, and we'll make the decisions as that data becomes available.
Deanna, I believe that the school buildings are going to be closed to the public. How does this decision impact the students that play sports?
Right now, we're continuing. MHSAA has not made any decision about winter sports. At this point in time, MHSAA is saying that winter sports will continue as usual. We hope that maybe they begin to think about at least postponing the start of the winter sports season for a period of time, knowing that now we're moving indoors. There's the difference between those outdoor sports like football and cross country and soccer and lacrosse and those sorts of things versus moving everything inside like basketball and wrestling and hockey and those events. So right now we have some time. Those sports -1 really don't start until next week. So we're hoping to get some guidance from MHSAA this week. We know that there's some conversation that probably will be taking place about those as well. At this point in time, football is scheduled to continue to play and to practice again because they're outside. We are going to make sure that we are cohorting and following all of our safety procedures for our high school sports that are still in season. There are very few left this fall. We're just going to try to get those finished out and then wait for some guidance from MHSAA about the winter sports season.
Deanna Barash with us, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Assessment and Instruction, joining us on the Oakland County MegaCast. Deanna, the last time the school district had to go entirely virtual, one of the first things that was put into operation was ensuring that those kids that are receiving free or reduced price lunch were still continuing to receive those meals. Is a similar operation going to be intact at this point in time with school returning to remote, and how is that planning to be enacted, if at all, safely given the current circumstances with COVID?
So actually, we started the school year. We haven't served lunch in person or breakfast all year long, simply because that would mean students would be without their masks and more risk for exposure. So families have had the opportunity to go to West Bloomfield High School to pick up food, as well as to Roosevelt to pick up food. That will continue. So the same process we've used really since the summer, and then for sure since the start of school in August, will continue in the coming months. So they actually pick up multiple days worth of food twice a week, and that will continue as normal. So we'll make sure that our families and students continue to have food.
Again, we know that this is an impossible position for you and the leadership team to be in over at the West Bloomfield School District. Also an impossible situation for the parents and the students as well. I worry about some of the students and their mental health during this time, and I know that the school district has tried to address that. Are you seeing an increased need for students with their mental health?
I would say yes. I mean, I think that we know that it's been tough. I think it's hard on families. It's hard on the adults too. And so we've had our counseling staff, our social workers. We have a school mental health specialist who we hired last spring, prior to COVID actually, working in the district, as well as our restorative practice team. So we've put measures in place. We actually did some training this fall that helped people identify students at risk, and not just harm to themselves, but potentially harm to others, and just kind of really being aware of what those signs might be and how we're going to intervene when needed in those situations. And so our teachers know our kids. I think one of the benefits that we have to remember, and one of the things we shared with staff this morning, we've been back in school since August 25th. We've been able to have a full quarter, 25% of the school year, we were able to follow our plan without interruption. So our teachers who have kids in person have already established those relationships. Those students feel like they know their teachers and vice versa, and that will make this for a successful transition. I think something else we have to remember, all of West Bloomfield High School has been remote the entire school year, has been remote since March. We have 1,500 students in Lakers Online, kindergarten through 12th grade. They've been fully remote since the start of the school year. And while we have had students in person, K through 8, 50% of their schedule has been remote learning. So our students probably will transition fairly well to this. We know it's going to be tough because they've gone 4 mornings a week or 4 mornings or 4 afternoons a week for in-person instruction. And so that is going to be tough and it's going to be an adjustment. But they've been online, they've been interacting with their teachers virtually. And the vast majority, more than 50% of our district has been remote learning only since the start of the school year. And so while certainly is an adjustment, we have all those plans in place. It will be seamless. We'll be able to we have established relationships with our kids, and learning will continue, even though it won't be in person.
Deanna, prior to the pandemic, back when life was somewhat normal, one of the big discussions within schools had to do around bullying. And obviously the focus has shifted now for, important reasons. But is there still a conversation being had about bullying? Because I was speaking with a parent this past weekend, and it seems like bullying has kind of switched to a degree because now, with everything being remote, it seems like some of these kids have more access, or not even necessarily more access, but more time for other things to happen. And are you seeing an increase in the bullying complaints at all, or is it even possible for people within the school district to know because everything is so remote?
Well, I guess it's a good public service message to remind our students as well. We've had a couple incidents, of course, where students have posted things in the chat on Zoom. All of that is archived. And so anything that is said in a chat is recorded and is something that we can access. We obviously had an issue at the beginning of the year where we had people who were not authenticated users who were coming into our Zooms and being disruptive, and that has stopped since we've required authentication, so that's been a good thing. We continue to encourage our students to be obviously good people and to make good decisions, and also to remind them that we can see what they're doing. So whether or not they're using our school issued Chromebooks at home and we're able to see what sites they're accessing, we're able to see who they've interacted with. There is a little sense of big brother with our Chromebooks because they are on our network, and so they have to be very careful and understand they should be making good decisions. They shouldn't be treating each other poorly anyway, but they should know we're able to see what they're doing. We've had a couple instances this year where things have been posted, not very kind things about other students or about teachers in the chat on Zoom. It is archived, we're able to see it, and then our administrators follow up on those kinds of things. So we want to make sure that obviously if parents see that or hear about it, they're reporting it to the teachers, they're reporting it to the administrators, and we'll take care of it. The school code of conduct is still in play, no differently than if we were in-person instruction. And obviously we encourage that our students, if it's happening to them or to their friends or they witness it, that they tell an adult so that we can deal with it. The last thing we need at this point in time, when everything is so stressful and people are really struggling to begin with, is to not treat each other kindly. And so whether that's adults or students, quite honestly. And so we need to make sure that if it is happening, that we are aware of it so that we can handle it.
Good words to leave on. We so appreciate you taking time at the last minute out of your schedule to help us get this word out, but also to let people know the reasoning behind the decision, because it's never an easy one to make. So thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.